that there is only one and only one solution, and we have almost no time to do it. This is why I'm doing these webinars. This is what I'm all about. It's time to turn all of our resources to repairing the natural world, period. We have to create forests, soils, clean water, clean energy, secure communities, stable regions, stable economies. We know how to do it. We're going to learn from one another, and we're going to learn from the book of nature to create systems that are ecologically sound and economically profitable. And that's why we're all here, and why I'm doing this week after week. And of course, restoration agriculture is the designing of agricultural systems modeled after natural plant communities, natural biomes, ecosystems, etc. Not just, I guess I'd say, artificially contrived systems such as many permaculture guilds, but actually mimicking natural plant communities that have a long historic track record of success on this planet. And of course, producing food, feed, fuel, medicines, fibers, and living a good life. You know, it's actually quite a nice life. We've already talked a lot about these various different topics in succession. Succession is a change of species composition, the types of species, the kinds of species, plant and animal in a system, or the replacement of one type of system with another. Everything changes in a system. The soil life changes, the plant life changes, the animal life changes. The biomass accumulated on the site is different. You just think of a plowed field, how little living things are actually there versus like a old growth redwood forest. Look at the total difference in biomass on the site. So succession is characterized by a change through time of the structure, that's the shape, you know, tall, short, fat, skinny, etc., the kind and the abundance of the dominant species. Ecosystem change never stops. It goes around and around and around. And we'll see a couple of different fascinating pathways tonight. Some topics that I've used these words before, but I want to make sure that we have a clear understanding on it. One is tolerance. When we're talking about plants in an ecosystem and their tolerance, it's mostly their shade tolerance. How happy can they be living in the shade? But it's other factors are involved too, because if you're in the shade of a forest canopy, like over here in this, you know, mature forest stage here, you're obviously going to have less water striking the ground. So if you've got a meter of rain falling here, a lot more of it will be able to, you know, strike the surface. Whereas here, it's going to be a whole bunch of the water is going to be intercepted just by wetting the stems of these trees. A lot of it's going to be soaked up by the roots of these trees, and there's a lot less water involved too. So the tolerance also involves other issues, nutrient balance and water balance. But it's typically the early successional plants are very shade intolerant. They need to live in the full sun. That's where they live and that's where they grow. If they get shaded at all, they're not tolerant of shade. They die. Mid-successional plants are somewhat tolerant. Perhaps they can get started in shade, and oaks are a classic example. They can get started in light shade and they'll grow for a few years. But unless there's a fire or some other kind of disturbance that will release them from the understory, they'll eventually die in the shade.